the show from home. Randy White, who is running the live YouTube stream, he's at his place. And Albert, my fine story producer, is taking a much-deserved night off. And, of course, Ian, my fine rockabilly friend, is right where he should be, behind the big audio board at Zoomerplex, Zoomer Radio, the hub, if you will. And I'm sending my audio to Zoomer via Skype, and I'm sending my webcam video to Ryan. I think I just called him Randy. Well, he can be, I'm told, at times. Anyway, Ryan, sorry about that, pal. So he's getting my webcam video at his place via the Google Hangout, and our guests will be contacted either through Skype or radio. So it's not exactly state-of-the-art technology. It's not like we're zooming all over the planet via satellite, but, I hope it works. Fingers crossed. David John Oates is he's from Australia, but he's actually in the Pacific Northwest tonight, and he is the discoverer of reverse speech. It all began with David John Oates, and he maintains that during spoken language production, human speakers subconsciously produce hidden messages that give insights into their innermost thoughts. And he claims this has applications in psychotherapy, criminology, business negotiation. And we'll be hearing some examples of reverse speech over the course of the next 45 minutes or so. Now, in the second hour, well, it's the second Sunday of the month. That means a visit from internationally acclaimed paranormal investigator and incredibly prolific author, Rosemary Ellen Guiley. And we're going to do something a little different with Rosemary tonight. We're going to open up the phone lines and give you a chance to call in with questions. And we're going to focus on haunted objects and problem ghosts. So if you have a ghost or some, a malevolent entity in your home, or an object you believe is cursed or possessed or haunted, maybe you've got one of those creepy haunted dolls, Rosemary and I want to hear about it all, and I'm sure if anyone can offer you some sage advice, it's Rosemary. In fact, that sage advice might involve smudging your house with, some sage, actually. That's what they do. Okay, reverse speech. Now, this is a fascinating area of study. Not surprisingly, mainstream science rejects this as pseudoscience. One has to ask, though, has mainstream science even bothered to study David John Oates' findings? I doubt it. Many scientists these days are so narrow-minded, I swear they could see through a keyhole with both eyes. I'm not going to hold my breath. So let's learn about reverse speech from the man who, as I say, discovered it. David John Oates is the founder, developer of reverse speech technologies. He was the first person to ever document speech reversals in human speech back in 1983 and has worked extensively since then on research and development, as well as maintaining a therapeutic and consulting practice. He's had an active career spanning 24 years, furthering the field of reverse speech as his full-time occupation. He's developed new theories and designed therapeutic and training techniques. He's published a number of books on reverse speech, including Beyond Backward Masking, Voices from the Unconscious, and It's Only a Metaphor, and numerous tapes and training manuals. He's lectured around the world to crowds of thousands and trained hundreds of students. He's also instigated some of the first mainstream studies and presented reverse speech on thousands of radio shows, including his own show, the David John Oates Reverse Speech Show, that ran successfully for 3 years, syndicated coast to coast in the U.S., where he lived for 10 years back in the 1990s. David John Oates, welcome to The Conspiracy Show. How are you?
I'm doing very well, sir. Thank you very much for having me.
It's great to have you. I'm trying to remember, I believe maybe another show, another radio station, we talked once before.
Oh, really?
If not, it's anyway, regardless, it's long overdue having you on.
Good on you. Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, it's an amazing field, reverse speech, and I had to chuckle when you said, I wonder if mainstream science has even bothered to look at it. There's been one university that has, that's Monash University in Melbourne, Australia, but other than that, the skeptical reviews that come out, I'll ask them, well, have you ever bothered listening to a tape backwards? And they say, well, no, I haven't. I wouldn't even be bothered. I think, well, how can you debunk a phenomenon without even researching it? It's a bit silly, I think. So.
Yeah, I mean, they're basically throwing the scientific method right out the window. I mean, you've done the experiments, you have the data. You'd think they'd want to look at it.
You would think so. Maybe one day. We'll see.
So the idea that when you're speaking normal forward speech, you're actually producing two messages. Now, but this isn't happening constantly, right? Is it
No.
every few sentences? Is it every several times a minute? What's the frequency?
Yeah, depends on the conversation. In normal average conversation, they'll be about once every 15, 20 seconds of speech. Once you get to public media and prepared scripts, they drop off quite dramatically to once every 2 or 3 minutes. This is because reverse speech is coming from the right brain hemisphere, and the more right brain activity is involved in speech, the more reversals you will get. So in a casual, relaxed conversation, you'll get the once every 15 or 20 seconds. In a heated argument, you can get it once every 5 seconds. But in media, which tends to be fairly left brain, they drop off quite dramatically. So
Now, in this situation where I'm asking you a series of questions,
right.
would and I'm not encouraging you to analyze my reverse speech by any stretch, but does an interrogative produce reverse speech results if I'm asking a question?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely will. Yeah. I mean, it will be your reaction to the question. Will be your reaction to me. What you're thinking at the time. If you're thinking this is interesting, you might get that in reverse. If you're thinking this guy's a bit suspicious, and you might get that. And the fact that you're asking a question is irrelevant. It's still going to contain a reversal. Well, maybe contain a reversal. Like I say, once every 15 or 20 seconds, so that's a whole bunch of gibberish in between. So
now, how did you? I don't want to assume that you stumbled onto it, but what led you to this finding back in 1983?
Yeah, well, I was running a halfway house for street kids. I'm a youth pastor by profession. And there was an evangelist for the United States traveling through, and he was preaching that rock and roll was the devil's music, and if you played records backwards, you could hear these satanic messages. And some of my kids in the drop-in center were playing the records backwards. They're getting quite scared, and they asked me what I thought of it. And I'm an electronics buff. I'm a ham radio operator, so it was nothing for me to go home and run some tapes backwards. And I started running in reverse, mainly to show the kids there was nothing to this. And and I started to hear these phrases in music at first, and they're going, well, what on earth is this? And it wasn't intentional. There was no manipulated soundtracks. It was purely occurring by the way the song was sung at the time. And then I looked at music for about 3 months, and then I accidentally stumbled across it in normal human speech. And it's one thing to hear it in music, but to suddenly hear it in speech is a whole new ball game altogether. Here, let me play you an example in music. Okay?
Yes, please.
This is a Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Oh, one of my faves.
It was down in Louisiana, just about a mile from Texarkana, in them old cotton fields back home.
Okay, now there's no superimposed soundtrack there.
No.
But you run backwards, you hear this really clear phrase, I believe in my cool woman.
I believe in that cool woman.
And I'm sure you'd agree that's quite a clear phrase. There's no
It
doubt,
is.
no
It
doubt
is.
there. And I was documenting these phrases, and I was scratching my head and a bit scared to walk in my house at night at times.
Well, I'm pleased that there's nothing satanic in John Fogerty's lyrics. It's very wholesome and pure.
Yeah, well, he's a family man. He's been with the same woman for 40 years now. So
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, so I believe in my cool woman is quite a logical thing for him to say. Yeah, but then I started finding it in speech. Let me play you and just a normal example from speech. This is 1996. Bob Dole resigning from the Senate to run against Bill Clinton. So let's run this forwards.
You do not lay claim to the office you hold. It lays claim to you. Your obligation is to bring to it the gifts you can of labor and honesty, and then to depart with grace.
Yeah, listen very carefully. See if you can hear what he's saying backwards. I'm going to run it backwards at 3 speeds.
Okay.
It's an honor. It's an honor.
What do you hear?
It's an honor.
Honor.
Yeah, exactly right. It's an honor. And that's what we call a congruent reversal. He's talking forwards about his passion in working for the Senate. Here, let me run the whole track backwards. And you'll hear the gibberish, and then this phrase coming up out of the gibberish. So here we go.
It's an honor to be able to be speaking.
Okay, could you hear that in there? It's an
Yes,
honor?
it's an honor for sure. So that's congruent because he's the same meaning frontwards and backwards.
Right. Now let's look at one that's incongruent. This is Hillary Clinton running.
You don't say.
Oh dear, here we go.
And you know what? It also matters when he makes fun of people with disabilities. Calls women pigs.
And here she says, and I'll scam you.
And I'll scam you.
Oh dear.
Here we go.
And I'll scam you.
And once again, let's run the whole lot backwards. Listen to this.
See, there will be and I'll scam you, sir, and I am sorry.
You hear that just jumps up out of the gibberish there?
Yes. Now, how does one rule out, because of just the combination of vowels and sounds and syllables, that it's just chance, that every once in a while you're going to get some backward speech that actually forms a word forward?
Sure, valid question. And that's one of the main questions the skeptics ask me. You know, people don't deny that they exist. The phrases can be heard. Even from the skeptics, those who have bothered to listen to my work will admit that they do exist. But yeah, it's all coincidence. You take any section of sound and run it backwards, by the pure chance you're going to get the odd phrase. Look, these phrases occurring once every 15 or 20 seconds. They have direct relationship to the forward dialogue. In other words, the subject matter backwards will be the subject matter forwards. What's the odds of phrases occurring in grammatically correct sentences at such a frequency that have congruence with the forward dialogue? What's the odds of that? Here, let me play one. This is Donald Trump. I want you to notice he says 2 words forwards. I want you to key in on Hillary and email. Listen to this.
When he gave up that email thing, he said, "Here, Hillary." And you know what? That was orchestrated by the Democratic Party.
So Hillary and email, and backwards he says, "Hillary, let's see this email."
Hillary, let's see this email.
Oh dear. Right.
So what's the odds of
Yes.
a phrase backwards that uses the same words forwards?
Right.
Hillary,
The context is same backwards and
Yeah.
forwards. It's not like he's saying, I had fish for supper last
Right.
night. He's
Exactly.
talking about what he's talking about in forward speech.
Exactly correct. And that's the thing that convinced me back in the early days, was this direct relationship between the forwards and the reverse.
David John Oates, the founder of Reverse Speech, the man who discovered reverse speech. He'll be back in a moment, and we'll continue this conversation forward. Back with more of The Conspiracy Show. Stay with us.
Providing the evidence and letting you draw your own conclusions. This is The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett on Zoomer Radio.
Could you cross the 6-lane street before the light turns red?
Can you walk a city block in under 5 minutes?
I couldn't.
I know I can't, and I have the refund check to prove it.
HealthRefund.com is a service to assist people like you, folks who have trouble getting around. If you pay income taxes and have difficulty walking, you may be entitled to a large tax refund.
The money is there.
You just need the experts.
HealthRefund.com has been helping each of their clients save thousands of dollars, even up to $50,000. And with HealthRefund.com, if you don't save, you don't pay. Are people always waiting for you?
That's me, and it's my name on that check.
HealthRefund.com. See if you're eligible for a refund of income taxes. Pick up the phone now and call 1-888-999-2221. HealthRefund.com. From Grants International, the refund experts. 1-888-999-2221.
Carp wins big for you. Now, here's another way you can win. Enter for your chance to win one of 10 official Team Canada 72 autographed jerseys. Estimated value $2,500 each. Each jersey is individually signed by 9 Team Canada 72 players. Visit carp.ca/team to enter. Share on social media and get 10 times the chances to win. Enter now at carp.ca/team.
I'll stay out all night if I feel like it. Nice sweater. I hope there's more yarn where that comes from. Yes, I'm mysterious. Don't you just love mysterious?
What cats are thinking. Give a loving home to a new friend who'll think the world of you. Visit zoomerradio.ca and click on the Zoomer Radio Pet of the Week.
You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
The owners of the system are asleep. Now we can play The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio.
Welcome back. David John Oates is with us. We're discussing reverse speech. DavidOates.com, O-A-T-E-S, DavidOates.com, the website. It's fascinating. You were talking about backward masking in music, and I know when you were a teenager, you had a rock band of your own, didn't you? You were working on amplifiers, guitar amps, and so forth.
Oh, yes, I did indeed. Yes, I was a bass player in the band. I used to build all the amplifiers for the band. I've been in electronics all my life. I can remember building crystal radio sets when I was 5 years old.
Yes, the crystal radio.
Yeah.
I was going to say I have a new podcast just launched a couple of weeks ago called the Rock and Roll Twilight Zone, and I'm going to do an episode on backward masking. So maybe I'll get you on that, and we'll talk about a little backward masking.
Oh, I've got lots of examples of backward masking. Yes, lots of them.
Can reverse speech has it been used to aid police in investigation, perhaps maybe even trying to narrow down a field of suspects?
Right. Yes, it has. Not as often as I would like. I've been used by the Australian police on a couple of occasions. Both of those are confirmed on my website. And in the Australian police cases, in one case, they found the name of a bank where the suspect had hidden funds. And in another case, they found the location of a murder weapon where the suspect had hidden it. I did some work for the Dallas police when I lived in Dallas back in the early 90s. But the real big news about reverse speech and police investigation was in the early 90s. I lectured to the CIA on speech, and they recently declassified all their work on reverse speech. Giving me full credit for the discovery. And if you Google CIA reverse speech, you can go to the listing. And so I've heard consistent reports over the years that the CIA have been using reverse speech and the FBI. I can't verify that, although the latest CIA release would tend to validate that, yes, they have been looking into it and using it. So
what you would have to be careful, obviously. You couldn't convict solely on that.
Oh, no, nor should you. No. It's an investigative aid. It will lead you to where the evidence that you need is. I don't think anyone should be convicted based on reverse speech. Same as a polygraph. It's an investigative aid, and I don't see reverse speech being used in a court of law in anytime soon. Anyway,
if you have someone who is a sociopath,
sure.
And let's face it, I mean, in order to get to the top in almost any field, you have to have a bit of that. The world I have always maintained is geared towards in favor of the sociopath, unfortunately. But if you have someone who is a sociopath, they have no conscience, they are able to lie in such a way that, they could probably even pass a galvanic skin response test. Would they be able to fool reverse speech?
Oh, look, here's a classic example. Here's Charles Manson. Listen to this.
It's not me at all, man. That's not me.
And here he says, I am a holy man. Not very clear, but it is there. Now, he's hardly a holy man.
So what was he saying there in backwards? I didn't quite get it.
I'm sorry. I am a holy man. I'll do it again. He's saying I am a holy man.
Yes.
You hear that?
He actually believes it.
He actually believes it. Yes, he does. There you go.
So the backward speech is congruent with the forward speech,
right?
As one would suspect from a complete sociopath.
Right. That's exactly right.
Amazing. Yep. Amazing.
Yeah. Incredible stuff. Yep.
I don't know if you have this one at the ready, but one of the most famous ones comes from Neil Armstrong. And of course, we've talked about the possibility of a lunar landing hoax and so forth.
Oh, yeah, well.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have that one?
Well, I got the Neil Armstrong one, and I got a whole bunch of reversals on the lunar landing, which I will have to hunt for, but I should be able to put it on pretty quickly. This one of the moon landing is the very first reversal I ever heard in human speech. So this is actually a very historic example. And I'll tell you the story once I play it.
Yes.
Here's the forwards.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Backwards, he says, man will spacewalk.
Man will spacewalk.
Very clear reversal.
Yes.
Now, when I found that reversal, I had got a compilation of famous radio broadcasts. I was actually looking for music from the 50s and 30s and 40s. And I was running the whole tape backwards, and I heard this really clear phrase, spacewalk. I go, oh, what's that? And I played it forward and heard Neil Armstrong. I go, oh, my God. And see, I heard the reversal before I heard the forwards on that example. And that was actually quite a stunning example. And
well, I don't think anybody would ever accuse Neil Armstrong of being a sociopath. And there's congruency there. So what does that tell us? That
all right. Okay, then let's play some reversal, shall we? Okay, let's. Where will I start? Okay, here's Neil Armstrong describing how he landed the lunar mission.
The moon has no atmosphere, so you're flying in a vacuum. And the gravity is much lower. So the characteristics of a flying machine in that environment are very different than they are here on Earth.
And here he says, you land that mission now. You hear that?
Yes.
So that was seen to be a congruent reversal.
It would.
And here he's talking about, where's the one I'm looking for? You caught me off the hop on this. I wasn't expecting to play Neil Armstrong.
You were doing it very adeptly with no notice.
No, and I'm trying to find the really one I'm looking for, and I can't see it.
We can come back to it. No pressure.
Oh, all right. Well, here's one here. Here's just a. Oops, that one failed. That one failed on me. Here's one here. Now, of course, the lunar landing module was called the LEM, the Lunar Exploration Module. And here he's talking about putting the plaque, the plaque on the LEM, from the LEM.
Neil is now unveiling the plaque
Neil is now unveiling the plaque, and backwards he says, off from your LEM.
Off from your limb. Off from your limb.
Very clear.
Off from your limb.
And another congruent reversal. Okay.
Yes.
And so, okay, here's another one. This is Buzz Aldrin.
The blue color of my boots have completely disappeared now into this. I don't know exactly what color to describe this other than grayish cocoa color.
So he's talking about walking on the surface, and here he said, "But there's dark. See the dust."
There's now visibility. There's now visibility.
You hear that there?
Yes, yes. So again, congruency.
Another congruent reversal. Yeah. And I believe we did go to the moon based on the reversals. Now, you talk about the Kennedy assassination. You want some conspiracies? Oh, boy.
That's why we're here, my friend.
I could give you some conspiracies from hell on the Kennedy. So I've done a lot of work on the Kennedy assassination.
And whose speech did you analyze for the Kennedy assassination?
Oh, a whole lot. Lee Harvey Oswald, JFK, J. Edgar Hoover, Dulles, all of them. And I've pretty well uncovered exactly what's happened. I hadn't planned to go on the show, but I can tell you who the real killer of JFK was.
Maybe we should. Well, listen. Maybe we should make that a part 2. Maybe we'll have to bring you back, and we'll just do simply the JFK, and that'll give you time to.
All right, let's do that. Yeah, schedule me for another show, and we'll do a whole show on JFK.
That would be fabulous. Now, how would let's see, someone conducting an interview for a job, a high-powered, very important position,
right?
How would they utilize reverse speech? What should they be looking for?
Well, it just so happens I do a lot of corporate consulting work, and I analyze prospective employees and give a report back to the employer, personality profile. The employers will ask the prospective employees a series of questions. I've given them some questions to follow. They'll send me the recording. I'll analyze the tape, and I'll get a fairly good idea whether the employee is going to be right for the job or not. Another thing I do a lot of too, if people are going into business ventures, I just did one just this weekend. A man in Australia buying a post office and wanted to know whether that business would be a success or not. And so we sit down and talk on the tape, and we'll see. Now we're getting to deep reverse speech theory. Reverse speech taps into the collective unconscious, universal knowledge, and it will tell us whether that deal will work or not, whether it will be a success or not. So the applications in business are just staggering, stunning stuff.
What does this tell us about the human mind? What does this tell us about the subconscious mind?
Oh, good question. Good question indeed. We are multifaceted beings with layers of consciousness that go on forever. The conscious mind is probably 5% of all speech reversals I find from the conscious mind, which is a very small scattering of reversals, by far the vast majority coming from the unconscious, and they speak in metaphor and archetype. At the deepest levels beyond that, it will come from the spirit itself. You can hear the voice of the spirit speaking. Let me give you an example of that. Here we have a man who's got financial problems, and he's talking to his tape recorder looking for answers.
Does it further for us to put more energy and money and effort?
Backwards he says, "You're frightened, lean on me."
You're frightened, lean on me.
That is crystal clear.
Isn't that clear, hey? That is his spirit talking to him and saying, "I know you're frightened, I know you're upset, lean on me." And at the deepest levels, reverse speech is the spirit speaking. And so there's multi-layers of consciousness speaking in reverse speech, not just one layer, but multi-layers. And it shows us that there is far more to our psyche than just our conscious mind. There is an independent intelligence running inside of us, outside of our conscious awareness. And it's this independent intelligence that is creating the reverse speech.
What if you were to tap into someone's subconscious, let's say while they're in a hypnotic state?
All right.
What happens then if you're already suppressing the conscious mind and they're talking forward? Obviously, does that mean they'll reveal more in their backward speech?
Right. Well, I'm a hypnotherapist, and I do this a lot. The reversals under hypnosis are clearer and more frequent. Some of them crystal clear.
Isn't that interesting? Fascinating. What about children before they learn to speak? When they're babbling and they're learning vowels and sounds and so forth, do we get reverse speech from them?
We certainly do. You're tapping on to one of my favorite subjects, and that reversals in children. Children are speaking back before they do forwards. Here's a 4-month-old child babbling. You run it backwards, you hear the gibberish followed by hello.
Oh, dear Lord.
And amazing. I'll do that again. And let me play you probably one of my favorite ones of all on kids. This is my daughter. She was playing in a bathtub, and she was trying to pick up a cup, and she couldn't pick it up, so she reaches out to me for help. So here's the forwards. And backwards she says, David, help me. Isn't that amazing, hey?
That's mind-blowing. That is mind-blowing.
I know, it's incredible stuff. Yeah, this is the most amazing phenomenon. I'm stunned that after 35 years of doing this, it's not more well known than it is now. It's a little bit puzzling to me. Why not? I've certainly got all the evidence to validate it.
I'll say, listen, we'll take another time out. Incidentally, I could listen to that 4-month-old babbling all night long. I just love that sound. Anyway, we'll come back. David John Oates is with us, the founder, discoverer of reverse speech. We'll open up the phone call the lines as well, if you'd like to call in with a question or comment. Back with more in a moment. Don't go away.
Take a look around. What do you really see? This is where you can tell all about it. The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett on Zoomer Radio.
Listen Up Canada. Did you hear? Listen Up Canada is changing its name to Hearing Life. The signs on the outside might be changing, but our staff, our dedication, and expertise remain the same on the inside. We are proudly serving over 200 communities across Canada with one simple vision: to help more people hear better. A free hearing test could be the difference between living and living out loud. Because at Hearing Life, your hearing is our expertise. Visit whoishearinglife.ca.
You got this. I got this. Hello, Mike from State Farm. I need car insurance, but I won't settle for anything less than a good deal. Oh, wow. 30%. It's incredible. Yeah, well, do you have an app? Well, you do. And I can access my policies from anywhere? Well, that's just perfect. Yeah, I will have a great day. And you better, too.
I'm proud of you.
I'm proud of me, too. I'm sweating. A State Farm agent can help you save up to 30% on car insurance. Walk in, call, or visit statefarm.ca. Some conditions apply.
Why Cancun is the destination for everyone is plain to see at Transat.com, where kids-friendly resorts play nice next to 5-diamond adults-only hotels, while paddleboards bob on a turquoise sea off a white sand beach. This May, Cancun is also the destination for antique car lovers. Book your stay during Rally Maya Mexico, a 5-stage race from Cozumel through the Tulum ruins to Cancun. Visit Mexico, a world of its own. And who knows better than Transat?
Say hello to spring with the April issue of Zoomer magazine. Reboot your outlook with the queen of positivity and hope, Oprah Winfrey. She's looking gorgeous as ever on our cover at 64. Learn her secrets for greater clarity on self and higher purpose in our exclusive interview. Plus, reboot your health, your wellness, and your style with stories of inspiration, innovation, and reinvention. Live life to the fullest. The April issue of Zoomer magazine, on sale now.
In a democracy, we elect officials so we can sleep at night. So why are you up? 416-360-0740 or toll free at 1-866-740-4740.
Welcome back. David John Oates is with us. Just a reminder, coming up in the second hour, Rosemary Ellen Guiley, our paranormal investigator extraordinaire, will be with us. And have your questions, comments ready, particularly if you feel that you have some sort of a malevolent entity in your house, a ghost problem, if you will, a haunted object. Maybe you're a bit of an antiquer and you just brought something into the house, and ever since then, you've had a string of bad luck. We'll get into all of that with Rosemary Ellen Guiley. Right now, a fascinating gentleman and a most fascinating field, reverse speech. The discoverer of reverse speech, David John Oates, is with us. We were talking about children and their reverse speech before the break. The other aspect of this I think would be interesting to know about is different foreign languages. So, I mean, and this would further corroborate, I would think, that this isn't just some happenstance or peculiarity of the English language, that if you had someone speaking Korean or Indonesian or Hindi, and you still get the same reverse speech phenomena happening. Is that the case? Does it work in other languages, David? Oh, did we lose David? I think perhaps we did. All right, let me just find out what's going on back at the shop there. I'm just going to ask Ian, did we lose David John Oates? All right, if so, we will get him back on. Hey, just a reminder, I mentioned my new podcast, The Rock and Roll Twilight Zone, and that is available. It drops every Wednesday, a new episode every Wednesday. It's on the Westwood One network and also Chris Jericho's network, the Jericho Network. So I hope you get a chance to listen to that, The Rock and Roll Twilight Zone. Just Google it, but it's basically available everywhere. And in addition to that, of course, my other podcast, Conspiracy Unlimited, and new episodes drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And here's a bit of exciting news. We've only been up and running with the new podcast since December the 4th. We're already at about, I think, just a shy or a tad under 250,000 downloads. Not bad. Not bad. 250,000 downloads for Conspiracy Unlimited. Again, new episodes drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Do we have David Oates back yet? How about you, Ian? Are you hearing me? Oh, okay. So I'm still on the air. We just don't have David back yet. All right. Well, we'll get him. We'll also open up the phone lines, and if you have a question or comment about reverse speech, would love to hear from you. And of course, just a reminder. We do have one. Just a reminder, Rosemary Ellen Guiley is coming up in the next hour. Greg is in Toronto. Hello, Greg.
Yes, Richard, David, good evening. It's very intriguing to listen to you gentlemen.
We're trying desperately to get David back on the line, but you had a question for Greg or a comment?
I'm sorry, the difficulty.
What was your question or comment?
Yes, I wanted to see if he could relate to past lives in this regard. Any data could be forthcoming in that area.
Oh, that is fascinating. Fascinating. So, in other words, if someone were undergoing a past life regression through hypnosis, and then
starter, yes.
Hello.
We do.
Yes.
We have David back.
Hello.
David, welcome back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened then. I was saying hello. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
That's all right. We have a great question from Greg, and he wanted to know about the use of reverse speech analysis with someone who believes they've undergone a past life.
Oh, very good question. Yes, indeed. Look, reverse speech does not confirm or deny the existence of past lives, but what it does say is the records are sealed. We've tried going into past lives many, many times and got no answers. Reversals have come back and said, don't go there. So there you go. That's the answer.
Wait, are you serious? The reverse speech said, don't go there?
Exactly correct. The records are sealed. We've tried many times, numerous times, and with not just me but other analysts as well, and gotten the same answers. Yes.
And that's the answer. The records are sealed, or don't go there.
Correct. Yes.
Oh,
indeed.
my word.
Now, it doesn't deny the existence of reincarnation. It's just saying it's you are not supposed to explore it. That's what it's saying.
Right. And that perhaps is the soul voice speaking?
Yes, that's the soul voice speaking. Yes. Yes.
You opened up one heck of a can of worms with this, didn't you?
Oh, I know I did. I gulped when you asked me that question. I thought, oh my God, there's no way I can answer this and not get into trouble.
Well, no, you're not in trouble. It's to me, it's just absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah, it is.
Mind blowing.
And to answer your question on other languages.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah, we've looked at 3 other languages so far: French, Spanish, and German. We've found that in each of those languages, if people are bilingual, we've found them speaking in both languages backwards, both languages that they're congruent with. We've also found English with another language forwards. Now, here's one from a translator at a NATO conference. Listen, she's speaking Chinese, I think.
这有点像波黑战争。
And backwards she says, nasty hope was NATO, yes.
Nasty hope was NATO, yes. Nasty hope was NATO, yes.
Now, obviously, she's bilingual because she's a translator.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that fascinating? So because people often, they'll think in one language while speaking in another, and that's coming through in the reverse speech.
Exactly right. Yes, indeed.
What does mainstream science do with that, I wonder?
Oh, I know. I've opened up a Pandora's box. I really, really have. Yeah.
Let's work Walt in London in here. Walt, good evening. Welcome to the Conspiracy Show.
Good evening.
Hi there.
Walt. How are you? I just want to comment on the Kennedy information.
Oh, yes. What would you like to know? I can't give too much away. You'd have to wait till the show.
Well, Richard's a wonderful host, but sometimes I wonder what he's doing. How many people have said they have information and never get it out?
Oh, I see.
Please play at least one clip for us. I'll be happy to tune in for the rest on the next show.
All right. I think that's
in honor
fair.
of Dorothy Kilgallen, who was going to blow the lid off the thing.
I think that's fair. We'll tease them with one. David, what do you say?
Please do.
We'll tease them with one clip. Let me just get up my JFK file. Here we go, JFK assassin. Oh, I know what. I got the perfect clip to tease you with. This is Lee Harvey Oswald after he was arrested. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Here it is.
I didn't shoot anybody, sir. I haven't been told what I'm here for. You have a lawyer? No, sir, I don't.
And backwards he says, all 3 men are walking.
All 3 men are walking.
Oh, that's
So what 3 men is he talking about? The 3 hobos, 3 assassins? Stay tuned. I'll tell you who the 3 men are.
Oh my word, that's pretty clear. You know, we do shows from time to time on EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, and you don't get anything that clear most of the time. I would say, 90% of the time they're what they would call like a class B or a C. Very rarely do you get a class A, but these are all, I would say, 90% crystal clear. All right, stay put, David. We'll duck away momentarily, come back and finish up with some more reverse speech examples. David John Oates, the founder of Reverse Speech. Back with more in a moment. My name is Richard Syrett. Stay with us.
You're listening to The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio.
Turco-Persian Rug Company is a family-run business for 4 generations. I'm Jessica Kasparian, president of Turco-Persian, and I'm proud to carry on the tradition we started in 1906. If you have area rugs, wall-to-wall carpet, or furniture to clean, we offer over a century of experience. Free area rug pickup and delivery, or bring it in and save 20% off the cleaning. Visit our showroom for the finest hand-knotted rugs to decorate your home.
Located at 452 Richmond Street East, where there's always free parking. Visit turcopersian.com.
2018 is the year of culinary experiences in beautiful Barbados. We welcome foodies from every corner of the globe to make dining memories on locally caught flying fish, West Indian curries, and diverse cuisine that has given the rise to world-renowned restaurants dotted across the island. So while wanting your fill of our powdery beaches and endless hours of sunshine is perfectly natural, try and leave some room for dessert. Live the dream at visitbarbados.org and come taste Barbados.
Right now, for only $199 every 2 weeks, you can lease a 2018 Ford F-150, the truck that every other truck wants to be. F-150 is the first pickup ever made with military-grade aluminum alloy, improving payload, towing, and fuel efficiency. Lease a 2018 XLT 300A 5-liter with trailer tow package for 36 months at 0.99% APR with $4,150 down. Plus, get $1,000 in no-charge Ford accessories. Visit findyourford.ca or your local Ford store for details.
Pharmacists offer more than just pills. So much more, in fact, that fitting everything into 30 seconds is going to be a stretch. They can make sure your medication is safe for you and that the dose is correct. They can give you a flu shot, help you quit smoking, check and track your blood pressure, help you manage your diabetes and your asthma, prevent medication interactions, give you advice on over-the-counter products, vitamins, and natural health remedies, explain how to use healthcare aids, take back expired and unused medications, and dispose of them safely. And that's just off the top of my head.
Learn more at opatoday.com. Brought to you by the Ontario Pharmacists Association.
Poking holes in the darkness. The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio. To see the light, call Richard now at 416-360-0740 or toll free at 1-866-740-4740.
Well, this has just been mind-blowing to me, just fascinating. David John Oates is with us and discovered reverse speech back in 1983. Now, David, you were a stutterer as a young man.
Yes, I was.
If someone has a speech impediment, will that affect the backward speech?
You'll tend to find more reversals on the actual stutter itself. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I had quite a severe stutter. In point of fact, it's only been in the last few years that I've really gotten over it. You can still hear a bit of it in my voice every now and then, but yeah.
And so you're saying that the stutter will produce more?
Yes, it will. Yeah. Well, look, if you ever listen to anyone talk for any period of time, just concentrate on their speech. You'll notice it's full of pauses and stutters and stammers and tonal alterations, and we don't even think about it. But those little inconsistencies of speech actually contribute to the speech reversal. So the stutters and stammers are actually there to help create the reversals. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So what's next in researching reverse speech? Where do you want to take this to the next level? Where is that?
Oh boy, there's two ways I can answer that. Look, we've just released I want to make the technology as widely available as we possibly can. We've just released our app for the iPhone, and you can get that by going to the App Store and searching for reverse speech. Android's coming out in a couple of months, and the next step after that is speech recognition. We want to develop a app that you will hold up in your hand on your phone, and it'll print out the forwards and print out the reverse. And then we're really looking at mind reading. Then you've got that puts reverse speech into the 21st century. That really gets
an app, of course. Just a matter of time before you have to have an app.
Yeah. So that's where we're going. I want to do more controlled tests to validate its existence. I've done several already. They're all on my website. Part of me wonders why I do it, though, because no one ever reads them. So I don't know.
What else do you have for us? Do you have another reverse speech?
Sure. Let me see. Let me go to my examples I had prepared for you. And okay, let's look at some of the applications in therapy. I use it in therapy quite a lot. Here's a woman who had money problems. Let's run this forwards.
She and I need to work this issue out, but it started to bring up all my money fears and stuff. And the thing is if I know I start sourcing fear again, I'm gonna go way downhill.
Want to do that. Backwards, she says, "Work on my grief."
Work on my grief.
Work on grief. And this is her unconscious coming back and telling me that in order to solve her money problems, we have to work on grief issues, okay? And that's one of the amazing things about reverse speech and therapy is it will tell us what causes the problem, and in many cases tell us how to fix it and how to work with it.
Oh, isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, and I get just stunning results in therapy. Whole lives changed and turned around because it takes the guesswork out of it. It's not the therapist diagnosing the problem or giving you the solution. It's you. It's your own spirit, your own unconscious that is diagnosing and giving the problem.
So if you were to go back to this patient and say, well, in your reverse speech, you're saying that you need to work on grief. How would she respond? Would she be taken aback? Would she acknowledge that was true?
Well, I remember this case. She knew exactly what I was talking about. It goes back to a very sad and lonely childhood, which has created her problems to this day. And I find that 90% of all the issues I work with go back to childhood. It's absolutely stunning. Some issue in childhood. Childhood is the most informative years. It's so important. Yeah.
The idea that, as you said earlier, when we were talking about children, we actually learn to speak backwards before we learn to speak forwards.
Uh-huh.
Is it possible at some point during human development that we actually spoke backwards?
Oh, whoa. Of course, that's a philosophical question, that one. Many reverse speech people will tell you that we spoke in metaphor and backwards before the Tower of Babel, the Old Testament story where God confused all the languages. I don't know. It's just a mythology, but I don't know. Maybe we did at one stage. That's how could we find out? I don't know.
Now, I believe it's the Episcopalians. There may be other denominations, and one of the things they do from time to time is speak in tongues.
Yes.
Have you ever analyzed someone's, I don't know if you can even call that forward speech, but what would happen if you were to play someone speaking in tongues backwards?
Well, actually, I was a pastor of a Pentecostal church when I discovered reverse speech. So they were right into speaking.
I was just going out on a limb there.
No, well, and what I found on speaking tongues scared the Dallas out of me. They were all occultic. They were, I worshipping Satan. I'm a demon monster. They were just put me. I've never spoken in tongues since. It scared the Dallas out of me. They were all very deep occultic messages backwards.
Oh my word! I had no idea. Isn't that amazing that I was just going, that was kind of a flyer, and lo and behold, you are a pastor in the Episcopalian Church. We have time for a couple more if you've got one handy.
Oh, I got a great one. I want you to listen to the emotion in this. I want to talk about how the soul speaks in reverse. This is me. This is me in the deep period of pain in my life. My son had just died. We won't go into all the things that happened to me. And
oh dear.
I'm talking on tape about why am I so depressed. And I'm saying, well, I'm very sensitive to energy. Maybe that's why. So here's the forwards. Could be. Yeah, could be. Well, see, I'm very sensitive to energy. I'm ultra sensitive to energy. And backwards I say, my soul give the pain. And I want you to listen to the emotion in the reversal. My soul give the pain.
Oh, Lord.
Hear that? Isn't that
yes, yes.
I'm crying from my soul. My soul itself is in agony.
Yes. No hint of that at all in the forward speech.
No, none whatsoever. No, none whatsoever. And well, we'll see. We played this one. Let's look at the real depths of reverse speech. This is me on a radio show, and I'm talking about the spiritual aspects of reverse speech. Listen to this.
Sometimes people ask me, does reverse speech endorse any particular religion? And the answer to that is no. There are no deities or religions that reverse speech endorses or says this is right or this is wrong. It just talks about the soul and the endlessness of life. And that in itself is very powerful. Indeed.
And this speech reversal here shows us the depth that reverse speech comes from, and backwards I say it's the voice in heaven.
Yes, the voice in heaven. The voice in heaven.
And that's what reverse speech is.
The voice in heaven.
It's a voice in heaven.
Kingdom of heaven resides inside, and reverse speech is the voice of the heart or the voice of the soul.
Fascinating.
Amazing.
Yeah. Are there some people, do you think, who have the ability, minus an app, minus any software, who can hear someone's forward speech and understand what they're saying backwards?
Well, there's two ways to answer that question. We're hearing reversals unconsciously all the time anyway. We've got instances of entire conversations going backwards. EEG tests have monitored the brain responding to reversals, so we know we're hearing it and responding. Now, under certain hypnotic conditions, I've managed to teach the conscious mind to hear the reversals. I think that in some cases where people are hearing voices, they're locked up in institutions, there's a miswiring in the brain and they're actually hearing the backward speech. So that's a possibility.
They're hearing whose backward speech?
Oh, the people who are talking to them. You know, they say they hear voices.
I see what you're saying.
The reverse speech. I don't know. It's just a theory. I don't know. But generally, no, we can't hear it consciously, but we're hearing it unconsciously.
This is absolutely remarkable. I have to tell you. I mean, I've never imagined, that reverse speech could have such a profound implication. I mean, for some people, it sounds like a party trick. Oh, isn't that amusing? But to hear the backward speech and it is in context with what is being said forward. I mean, I don't know how much longer mainstream media or mainstream science can ignore this.
I don't think they can. No, I'll just keep on beating the drum and, yeah. I don't know how they can. Look, I've got 35 years of research. I've got millions of reversals on my computer. I mean, millions. I mean, they can't all be imagination and coincidence,
David, if people want to contact you, do you consult? Are you available for consultations? How do they do that?
Yes, I certainly am. Let me get a phone number out, okay?
scour the flea markets and buy the odd antique. And I remember one of our first purchases was a bonnet chest. And a bonnet chest, it's not like a regular chest of drawers. They have very deep drawers because they would hold bonnets, which were, tended to be kind of tall. And this bonnet chest, beautiful. We loved it immediately and brought it home. And we did the one thing you're not supposed to do with antique furniture. We had it refinished, right? That's a no-no. I understand, but it looks beautiful. We still have it. But we were living up in Unionville in a very big house, and we just had our twin boys. So this is 2006, 2007. And I remember walking up into the upstairs in the hallway, and I would pace, up and down that hall with the little babies, trying to get them to settle down and put them to sleep. And I remember there was a bedroom that we used as a guest bedroom at the far end of the hall, and the door was closed, and the cold air was coming from underneath the door. And I thought, what the heck is that? If we left the window open? So I went in there, and the windows were closed, and it wasn't even a particularly cold night. I mean, there was no frost on the window. It was like an autumn night, and it was just really cold. And I checked to make sure that the radiator, the heating duct was open, and it was. There was some heat coming out of there, but the room was just deathly cold. And so I went down the hall with the baby, put him down. Both babies were asleep. And I just remember I went back to that room, and I shouted. I said, I don't know who you are or what you want. I said, get out. And I recited the Jesus prayer many times. And eventually that room warmed up. Now, I don't know. Was I just imagining? Was it lack of sleep of a new parent? Who knows? But I wonder if maybe all those antiques we were bringing into the house, there weren't a lot, a few pieces, whether we brought something was sort of hitching a ride. Well, we're going to talk about haunted objects and problem ghosts over the next hour, and we invite you to the phones as well if you have a problem ghost. Rosemary Ellen Guiley, of course, joins us the second Sunday of every month. She's a best-selling author, researcher, investigator in the paranormal, metaphysical, and related fields, including afterlife studies, spirit communication, cryptids, alien contact, you name it. I mean, she does it. She's just a one-stop shop, an encyclopedia of information. And the list of books is too numerous to mention. She's got The Road to Strange and Demon Haunted, True Stories from the John Zaffis Vault, the Zozo Phenomena, Calling Upon Angels, major encyclopedias, the Encyclopedia of Magic and Alchemy, the Encyclopedia of Ghosts and Spirits, of Demons and Demonology, Talking to the Dead, which she co-authored with my colleague George Norrie. It's always a delight. I always learn so much when she drops by, and she's back for the hour. Rosemary Ellen Guiley, welcome to the Conspiracy Show. How are you?
Hi, Richard. Well, I'm doing well, and always a pleasure to be on the show. What an interesting story you told. Yeah, I won't say I forgot about it, but I just kind of parked it in my, I guess, back in the deep recesses of my reptilian brain for some reason, because I don't really know if anything was going on. But I just remembered the other day, I got really angry in that room, particularly because I had two little ones, So what do you think based on that story? Well, it's possible that something did come in on one of those old pieces. It does happen. And sometimes it's nothing more than just some leftover emotional imprints from previous owners, and not necessarily a negative spirit, but spirits can attach to objects as well. We have a lot of antiques in our house, and something came along with one of the pieces we bought a few years ago, and it was active for several years, and just sort of a trickster sort of way, and then either it went away or it just ran out of juice because we haven't had anything in a while. But what you did with getting angry, I call that righteous anger.
Uh-huh.
And I tell people that sometimes that's what it takes to expel something unwanted, because they don't, whatever is unwanted in your environment or around you does not have the right to be there. And asking it to go sometimes won't work, but righteous anger will send energy to it to push it out.
Yeah,
and
I remember.
Done the trick in your case.
I guess so. I was so angry it actually overcame my fear. I just, as well, people who, when you have children, you sometimes. I remember my mother always says this because my mother is, well, she's 93 this June, and she's like 4'11". But she always said there were 5 of us, and when she saw someone who was trying to mess around with us or whatever, or she got upset because of someone else was doing something that she didn't like concerning us, she said, I became this mama bear. I grew 6 feet. And I understand that now, so you certainly can, as a parent, you rise above your fear. And I got angry. What do you think about the use of the Jesus prayer?
Prayer is very effective. And when people use prayers that have been used by millions and millions of people over many, many years, it's a very powerful battery. It's like a thought form energy. So you're tapping into a collective as well as aligning yourself with higher spiritual forces. So prayers are often very effective for people. And I always tell people, if they are going to use prayer, recite something they're familiar with that has emotional meaning to them, because if you recite a prayer that someone tells you to recite because it's really a good one and you have no connection to it, it's not going to be as effective as if you're putting a lot of emotional energy into it. It's just like that righteous anger. That's sometimes what it takes.
I forget who I was talking to, whether it was on the podcast or this show, and we were talking about something like that, and it was like that scene. Do you remember that movie Fright Night? And this vampire befriends the mother of this teenager, and she invites the vampire in. And once you do that, of course, the vampire can come and go as he pleases. And the vampire was attacking this teenage boy, and he tried to hold up the cross, and the vampire just smiled and shook his head, said, "Sorry, not going to work with me. You have to believe."
That's right. You have to believe. And in the paranormal circles, it's been popular to recite a Catholic prayer to the Archangel St. Michael for protection. And here again, it's like it has to mean something to you. So I've always told people that's a wonderful prayer, but if you've never used it in the past and it isn't part of your spiritual practice, you'd be better off switching to the Lord's Prayer or a childhood prayer or something like that has that emotional connection for you.
Right. Now, let's say you're an avid antiquer and your house is chock-a-block with this stuff. And then you have this problem, some entity or energy. Is there a method of narrowing it down as to what piece? I mean, there's, if you had a gas leak, you get a gas meter or a gas detector or something. Is there something that you can use to find out what piece is causing the problem?
Well, what I tell people is to pinpoint the time when the problem started. When did you first start noticing troublesome phenomena? And what changed in your environment at the same time? Did you bring anything into the house? Did you acquire anything? Was there some sort of emotional shift in a relationship? And quite often that will identify the culprit right there. Now, if people have brought a number of pieces in at the same time, then it's a process of elimination. And I also find that people often know when something is energetically off when they acquire it. It's got some different feel to them, but they're attracted to the object for other reasons, and they have to have it, but they know that there's something very strange about it. And so that will often help to identify it. When investigators come in to try and identify the source of a problem, if they are skilled in psychometry, that is sensitivity to touch, then touching objects, even a piece of furniture, may provide clues. And so once the object is identified, then it's important to get it out of the house. And so if it can be put in a garage or taken outside, you have to evaluate things in terms of, well, do people want to keep it? Is it, valuable? And so should we try and get rid of whatever is attached to it and cleanse it so it can be brought back into the house? Sometimes people just want to get rid of something altogether. But taking it outside of the house will then move the attachment and the activity outside as well, and then the object can be treated.
That's right. Let the barn cats deal with it. All right, Rosemary,
exactly.
stay put. We'll come back in a moment. Rosemary Ellen Guiley at the website visionaryliving.com. Stay with us.
Different views make great conversation. This is The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett on Zoomer Radio. To speak with Richard live, call 416-360-0740 or toll free at 1-866-740-4740.
Canadians invade Britain. And guess who's leading the charge? None other than the host of the British Invasion.
How would you like to see the world's largest permanent exhibition devoted to the lives and times of the Beatles? Did I mention it's in their hometown of Liverpool?
Zoomer Radio and Flight Center are going for 7 nights. So is Robbie Lane.
And so can you.
The 2018 Liverpool and Spotlight on London this October.
While in Liverpool, we'll occupy the Cavern and other places that help make the Beatles the most famous band in the world. And we go underground for a Colette experience, exploring the great city of London on the Tube. Next stop, the Theatre District, for a performance of Mamma Mia.
Find out more at one of 2 information sessions set for April 10th at the Zoomerplex and Flight Center. RSVP to 1-844-213-2730. That's 1-844-213-2730. Read all about it at flightcenter.ca/UK Music.
Whether you're watching the game or playing the game, you've made the commitment to live a healthy, active lifestyle. No one said it would be easy, but it can be with Healthy Planet. Healthy Planet is your source for high-quality vitamins, sport nutrition, beauty and health foods, and more. Right now, get $20 off when you spend $149.99 or more before tax. Healthy Planet. Live life healthy. 19 locations and growing. Visit healthyplanetcanada.com, official partner of the Toronto Raptors.
Sent to live in her uncle's gloomy manor, Mary lashes out at everyone around her until she finds The Secret Garden. Don't miss the Young People's Theatre production of The Secret Garden, the beloved children's classic. Live on stage, a show the whole family will enjoy. Find yourself in The Secret Garden. On stage now with extra performances during March break. For tickets, call 416-862-2222 or go to youngpeoplestheatre.ca.
Question everything. This is The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett on Zoomer Radio.
Welcome back. Rosemary Ellen Guiley is with us. Our paranormal investigator joins us this time every month, and she's with us for the full hour. And we're going to open up the phone lines and take calls, questions, comments. If you have a haunted object or something you suspect may be haunted or possessed, or in general, if you just have maybe a problem ghost, a bad vibe, an energy in the house, and you'd like to know what you can do about it, Rosemary is the person to speak to. You mentioned something earlier I found fascinating, and that is that you compared sort of the residual energy almost like a battery, and it eventually runs out. So we're talking about a haunting that there's no consciousness to it. It's just sort of a playback loop, a memory, or something that's stored in an object. How does that happen? How does an object store a memory, and do certain materials store memories better than others?
Well, the answer to the second question first is yes. And metal holds energy very, very well. Stone does. and like crystals, semi-precious stones, jewelry, for example, is a very good holder of energy, and many people feel very emotionally connected to their jewelry. But when I've used psychometry, for example, and in readings and investigations, I usually ask to hold something metal that the person owns, usually a ring, a watch, jewelry, even car keys, because we're emotionally attached to our cars. And it seems that when we handle things and we own things and we like them and use them, that emotional energy gets transferred to objects, and they can hold that energy. But it is limited, and this is also applies to hauntings in general because they're imprints. They're like recordings, and old photographs. They fade over time. Magnetic tape deteriorates over time. Well, that's the way it is with residual hauntings as well, which is why a lot of very old, famous ghosts that might have been active hundreds of years ago are not often seen or experienced today. So the energy gets used up, and sometimes when something attaches to an object or there's an emotional residue, let's say, it could be dormant for a while, and someone else comes along and buys that object in a secondhand store, an antique store, and they start using it and liking it and appreciating it and putting emotional energy into it. That can awaken what's dormant in an object. John Zappis and I, as you know, we've investigated lots of cases of haunted objects, and some of them quite problematic, where unhappy emotions were attached to things, and that unhappiness then started affecting the new owners. Usually things are rather benign. They might cause some unpleasant phenomena like what you experienced, or something that's kind of annoying. But depending upon the energy and what it is that's lodged in an object, and sometimes spirits lodge in objects too, then it calls for some more remedial action.
I'm just thinking now whether we were, I know from an investment point of view, you're not supposed to refinish antique furniture, but is it possible that refinishing an antique piece of furniture could stir up that residual haunting, or could it even erase it?
Both could happen. And in fact, when people go into older homes and renovate, sometimes they will experience an onset of activity. Whatever has been lodged there gets stirred up by the renovation. And then I've also had cases where people have moved into old homes and they've got a resident ghost or, residual energy, and they're comfortable with it. And then they decide to renovate, and that destroys the energy. So both of those things can happen, and you don't know until you start doing something, some activity in a house, which way it's going to go.
Now, there's the residual ghost, which is just a memory, doesn't have consciousness, but an object can also be, I'll use the word possessed, I don't know if that's the word you would use, but an actual conscious entity can take up residence in an object, correct?
Yes, that does happen. I think that, we attract spirits throughout life. A lot of them are just low-level spirits. Many of them are not harmful, but they can be attracted to our emotional states, and in certain cases that enables them to take up residence in an object. Sometimes people, through ritual practices, will attract spirits. We've got, John and I have some cases in our books about people picking up objects that were used in summoning rituals without realizing it. And of course, a summoning ritual would be intended to call spirits in. And over the course of time, spirits can not go away. They can stay, and they can lodge in that object. Now, another tricky thing here, Richard, is that not everybody is going to awaken residual energy. And it seems to be that human consciousness is a real wild card here. because somebody could go and buy a second-hand object that has residual energy or an attachment to it and not ever experience a thing. But another person could take that same object home and start having all kinds of things break out. It depends on, I think, the energy in the home environment, the energy in the land, and then certain people just seem to have something in their field of consciousness that interacts with these things more easily than others.
All right, let's go to the phones. And we have, I understand, an unnamed caller, someone wishing to be anonymous. So if that's you, caller, please go ahead. You're on the line with Rosemary Ellen Guiley.
Hi. Yeah, I've had what I would call demonic visions for the last, 5 or 6 years of my life. The last one I had was about 9 months ago. Whenever I get these things, I'll hear a ringing in my head. Usually as it gets louder, my vision will go black. And then sometimes I see things in there, sometimes not. The most horrifying one, probably, that was over a year ago now. I was approached by a bull that demanded I worship him.
A bull?
So, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Did they go ahead? Well, no, let me get the expert in here. Rosemary, what do you make of that?
Well, usually these things have some sort of cause or origin, why they're happening. There's an onset to them, and if somebody wants to get rid of them or eradicate them, then you have to find that point of origin and cause, which can then help in determining the remedies that are possible. So I'm not quite certain exactly how he's defining demonic vision and what the meaning of that is, and what what are the circumstances under which these things happen. And another thing that we also look at in investigating these cases is what's going on in a person's life while these experiences are happening, and what was going on when the first one happened. There may be some sort of, emotional component that enabled something to attach to someone's aura, for example.
Can you provide us with a little more detail, Anonymous? Can you tell us about the circumstances under which the first one occurred, the first incident?
So I don't want to get too graphic on your show, but
thank you.
I was into some things of a sexual nature that I really shouldn't have been, and I've turned away from now. It did seem to get a lot worse the further I got into that, and it's gotten, like I said, the last one wasn't for 9 months now since I've backed off of that.
Well, there may possibly be an attachment that took place because of some of this other activity. And what you would need to do is get the help of someone who can detach that entity, send it away. There's often aura repair that needs to go along with that, because where something was attached in an aura needs to be healed. And so many energy healers are skilled in that. There are people who also are skilled in spirit releasement, and they can provide, it's really kind of an exorcism that takes place, not in the full-blown Catholic sense, but an exorcism in that something needs to be expelled.
Is it possible he's undergoing some sort of if not a possession, a demonic oppression?
Well, if the visions are unpleasant and kind of nightmarish, that certainly indicates the presence of what we would call a demonic spirit, and negative, hostile, malevolent entity. And if something is left unchecked, then there's usually a progression where things begin to worsen and other aspects of life get to be affected. Health does, dreams get affected. And so it is important to take care of it.
Anonymous, has this affected your health, or is it just intruding on your dreams or your nightmares?
It hasn't really affected my health that I know of. I think the first couple of times it happened while I was sleeping, but after that it's been, while I'm wide awake. So it's kind of, it grew from there. But it has basically gone away for the last 9 months at least.
Is there a common denominator that you can identify when the onset of this ringing in your ears happens? In other words, what's going on in your life? Are you in a particular location?
No, it's happened at several different locations. Usually it's just when I'm, working. I write software for a living. Usually it's when I'm sitting at home late at night just writing software, and these things come on me.
Are you a religious? Sorry, go ahead, Rosemary.
Oh, I was just going to comment, Richard, that the ringing in the ears is often an onset symptom of something coming in. And we find this in, for example, ET abduction cases, where people say that they know that something's going to happen because they get a ringing in their ears or a buzzing in their head.
Right. Yes, I have heard that, come to mention it. Anonymous, are you a religious person?
Yes, I've turned within the, I'd say I officially became a Christian around the end of 2014. Turned my life over to God.
And is there do you have a spiritual father or someone that you could go to with this problem? You would feel comfortable opening up to them about this?
Not particularly.
Do you think maybe it might be wise to reach out to someone like that?
I have been thinking about that.
What do you think of that idea, Rosemary?
It's certainly a good idea to seek out spiritual help. And I have found in my experience that it varies considerably. There are many ministers and priests and spiritual counselors, religious counselors, who don't know much about spirit attachments and spirit problems, and they don't know how to deal with it, or they don't want to deal with it. And it's not unusual for a minister to say, oh, it's all in your head, it's just your imagination, or you need to see a psychologist. And then others are very helpful. They're knowledgeable, and they know what to do, and they have the resources and the training to do it. So I often tell people that it might take you a while to find the right person. And meanwhile, many energy healers and spirit releasement people can be very helpful as well. And spirit releasement is a term that many of these kinds of exorcists use, and you can Google that on the internet and find those individuals. They tune into the spirit and ascertain why it's attached and get it to go. And they have different techniques for doing that. So that would be useful.
And a spiritual releasement expert, is that what he would Google? Spiritual releasement?
Yes.
All right.
Spirit releasement.
Anonymous, I wish you all the luck, Godspeed, God bless, and thank you for sharing that with us, and I hope everything works out for you. Please reach out to us again and let us know how everything's going. Rosemary, stay put. We'll get to some more calls when we come back. And again, if you have a problem ghost or a haunted object, then now is the time to call Rosemary Ellen Guiley right here on The Conspiracy Show. My name is Richard Syrett. Don't go away.
Shaking the world and seeing what falls. This is The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio.
CARP works hard to support the needs of Canadians as they age. But did you know your CARP card works just as hard to save you money? Show your CARP card at Rexall and Rexall Pharma Plus stores, and you'll save 20% off the regular price of Rexall's private brands every day. saving you money year-round on shampoo, vitamins, food items, the things you need. Join CARP today and save every day. Visit carp.ca/join Rexall.
Traffic. With guys like Stop and Go Stew ahead, I don't know how I keep it together.
It's easy in the 2018 Ford Escape, packed with innovative features like available adaptive cruise control. It helps you keep your distance from the car in front. So when he slows down...
I slow down?
Yep, and you keep your head while others are losing theirs.
Instant serenity now.
Now get 0% APR purchase financing for up to 60 months, plus a $1,000 leadership bonus on most new 2018 Ford SUVs. With such innovation, it's easy to get into a Ford. Visit your Ford store or findyourford.ca.
More than 80% of drivers never drink and drive. What about the other 20%? Is it once in a while? Once a week? Once a day? If you're out with friends, don't let them drink and drive. Start the conversation. Spread the word that drinking and driving is socially unacceptable. And never get in a car with a driver who has been drinking.
Take a cab or transit instead. It's just common sense. A reminder from Zoomer Radio.
Nice business card. I wish my company had its own design department.
It's not bad.
Of course, the work of a graphic designer, a real pro. I should have guessed. It's got that sleek professional look. So who did you use?
Vistaprint, actually, and I did them myself. 500 cards for just $9.99.
You did these online for less than $10?
That's right. I just selected them from their templates, customized the look I want with their easy-to-use design tools, uploaded my logo, and presto.
So, you're not a big company?
Shh, don't tell.
Are you ready to give your business a professional, high-quality look for just $9.99? Then go now to Vistaprint.ca and explore our range of professional templates, each customizable to fit your unique style. Satisfaction guaranteed, because what you hand out should make you stand out. But hurry, this offer won't last long. To get 500 professional business cards for just $9.99, go to Vistaprint.ca today and enter promo code 9090 at checkout. That's Vistaprint.ca, promo code 9090.
The truth will set you free. But first, it will really tick you off. You're listening to The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio.
Welcome back. Rosemary Ellen Guiley is with us. Next week on the program, Nick Redfern will be along to talk about the Slender Man. And then we have... he's the author of, I don't have his name in front of me, but he's written a very interesting book about the relationship between owls and the paranormal, and owls and UFO sightings. There seems to be a connection there, and he documents it sort of throughout history and his own personal encounters with owls and, again, UFO sightings. And I am a big fan of owls. I love them. And of course, the mighty Aphrodite, being Greek, the owl is the symbol for Athens. That was Athena's symbol, the owl. So that'll be an interesting program. Nick Redfern and Owls and the Paranormal. Rosemary Ellen Guiley is with us. Her website, visionaryliving.com. Check out the shop, the online bookshop there, and there you'll see the long list of impressive works, many of the major encyclopedic works. And there's also... some books there about haunted objects, and that's what we're talking about this hour, haunted objects. Does it matter? I mean, could a very small item, let's say, for example, a coin collector, or even a small piece of jewelry, like a tiny pair of earrings, can they be haunted?
They certainly can, Richard. Anything can acquire haunting energy. John maintains a museum of haunted objects, and he's got thousands of them that he's been collecting for close to 40 years now from cases. And anything can be haunted. Pictures, jewelry, even religious statues, pieces of furniture, dolls, coin collections, masks, canes, coats, you name it. Anything can acquire energy. And it's something to think about, when we pass objects on, when we pass on possessions, and when we go shopping secondhand. Most of the time, people are not going to have a significant problem. In all the years that I've been buying secondhand and antique furniture, I've rarely had a problem the Chinese liquor cabinet that we acquired several years ago is the most active piece that I've had in a long time. And something came along with it that liked to play with the cabinet handles, and it would twist the handle so that we couldn't open any of the cupboards or doors. And it was very confounding. But we haven't had any activity now for a little over a year. And so I don't know whether it went away or it used up all its energy.
You mentioned John Zaffis, of course, the haunted collector. I mean, where does he store all of this stuff? Because I would think, all of the pieces that he has collected, as you say, over 40 years, you must get just an incredibly powerful and bad vibe when you walk into that barn or warehouse or wherever he stores all of this stuff.
Well, John collected so many objects that he had to build an outbuilding for them, which he calls the barn, and he's got his office there too. It's not big like a horse barn. It's a small building, but it's 2 levels, and he's got it's stuffed with objects. Now, everything that he brings in, he cleanses first. He neutralizes it. Some of the items that had hostile spirits attached to them, he has bound them and put them in glass display cases so that that energy is not disturbed. Then he's got a lot just stored in boxes in his basement and his attic. So not everything is on display. But you know that even though those objects have been neutralized, people pick up on energy. It's kind of impossible not to feel something when you're walking past all these objects. I've even gotten EVP there. When we were working on our books, John and I would go through the collection, and I would have a digital recorder going while we talked about the objects, and John related some of their background and history. And I would have voices on playback, mystery voices on playback, including one very spooky voice, a male-sounding voice that said, "John."
Oh, Lord.
Very, very loudly when I played it back. People have gotten kind of electric shocks walking past certain items. They feel watched. But John feels pretty immune to it.
How does he bind them, the spirits?
It can be done through prayer and calling in the angel realm and also cords of light. And so when you bind something to an object, if it will not go, then it's bound to the object so it can't move around and cause problems. And that's done through calling in whatever angels are your particular helpers, and visualizing cords of light going around this object and using prayer and invocation to command that the spirit will not be able to move past the object. And the reason why then these objects are then put in containers like a glass display case is that handling them could disturb those energetic links, cords, and so you don't want those disturbed.
All right, let's say hello to William in Toronto. William, good evening. Or I should say good morning now. Welcome to The Conspiracy Show.
Hi. Before I get started, I'd like to say that Rosemary is one of the very few people that I agree with to a great extent. She's very good at everything she tells you. I'd like to know if binding and loosing is effective in the name of the Lord Jesus the Christ, as in the Mark 16:18 Bible scripture. And are we dealing here with shapeshifter demons, or just unclean spirits, or leftover spirits from people that have not gone to the other side yet? And if you can give comments on that, it'll be great.
Good questions, William.
Well, all of the above. What we find attached to objects, first of all, there's just kind of emotional residue that doesn't have an active personality to it. It's just stuff that's accumulated from previous owners. And then there are people who are earthbound for periods of time. They don't make a full transition immediately. And it is possible for them to attach to some of their objects as well. There are lots of low-level spirits that are, I want to say they're fairly benign because they're not evil or malevolent, but they're more trickster-like. And this is a very common sort of attachment if we find spirits attached to things. Then there are also hostile entities that will attach, and some of those are related to summoning activities. And they can be quite problematic because they have an energy and a power and an intent to act out in harmful ways. Some of the other low-level spirits are just, I call them more opportunistic than anything else. They'll maybe be capable of some poltergeist effects, what we would call haunting phenomena, and it doesn't go beyond that. It doesn't become like a personal attack on a person.
William, thank you for the call. Rosemary, I've got to duck in here, and we'll take a quick time out, come back. Have to ask you about that Masonic apron story that actually occurred here in Toronto. The owners reached out to you. We'll talk about that when we come back. Rosemary Ellen Guiley, right here on The Conspiracy Show.
Don't be afraid of the dark. The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio.
At Ford Service, we value family. So we know the importance of having a
Dad, can I borrow the
car you can rely on. Our superior knowledge, technical capability, and training guarantee the best.
Drive me to the mall.
Experience your Ford has to offer, which means you'll never have to worry something was
I'm late for practice.
Missed or an unexpected
Teach me to drive.
Issue later on. Because you're not a taxi, but most days you probably feel like one. Ford Service. Where to next?
And now, here's some ducks to tell you all the great things about advertising on radio. Yeah, but I'm gonna have to stop you there because we're running out of time. There's so many reasons to advertise on radio. It's the best bang for your advertising buck. Radio. People are listening. You are.
Check out what we're all about at zoomerradio.ca.
Tower of Power. The most dynamic group of musicians to ever hit the stage leaves their mark on Burlington. 50 years of R&B, funk, and legendary urban soul. Join the generations of fans as Tower of Power continues the tour with no end. See Tower of Power, March 22nd at 8 p.m., Burlington Performing Arts Center. Get your tickets today at burlingtonbac.ca or call 905-681-6000.
Hi, I'm Cherry Tab, co-founder of the Herzig Eye Institute. Have you had your I've had it moment yet? I've had it with glasses, I've had it with contacts, I've had it with cataracts, I've had it with bad night vision, bad reading vision, bad vision, period. Instead, say, I've had it. I've had my vision corrected at Herzig, and it's wonderful. Don't wait. Google high definition vision. Learn about Herzig. Call us for a consultation. There's no charge. Look after yourself. Promise me.
When in doubt, blame the government. You're listening to The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio.
Rosemary Ellen Guiley is with us. The website, visionaryliving.com, and pretty close to 70 books now she has authored or co-authored, and I believe you can see all of those online at her bookstore. Again, visionaryliving.com. Rosemary, when you describe certain hauntings as a residual energy or a residual memory, it's kind of it's a very clinical sort of approach that sort of takes a lot of the fear out of it. Is there anything at this stage of the game that frightens you?
Well, certainly I have encountered hostile entities in some of the cases that I've investigated that have been, yes, frightening, because some of them are very powerful. They can gain the upper hand on people. They're unpredictable, and they're not something to be trifled with. I don't do exorcisms myself, and that's a very particular skill. And I refer people to exorcists if I think that that's what's warranted in a case. I have advised people on cleansing environments, like the home environment, and getting rid of some low-level things. But when it comes to the heavy-duty stuff, sometimes you have to know just when it's time to clear out and start over again.
Can you give me an example where you decided it was time to pull up stakes and clear out rather than deal with this entity?
Well, when I say clear out, I mean at least for the time being.
Sure, sure.
Because if energy starts to increase and negative things start happening in unpredictable ways, so that you're in danger of losing control over a situation, then it's best to just get out. And I've had some cases of jinn activity in the past where that's been the case, where I've set up with a team of people to do like an all-night investigation, try and collect some information about what's going on, or even communicate with the presence that is there. And there have been times when the activity has started to ramp up in unpleasant ways, equipment malfunctions, or people start to feel personally threatened by the presence or presences there. And when people start to get upset, then that's a very tricky time where you can lose control. And so it's better just, there have been some times when I've said, okay, well, we're calling it a night. We'll come back later. And I have felt those uncertainties as well as other people. But if you start to feel uncertain or even fearful, then they will get the upper hand on you very quickly.
Have you ever been attacked by a full-on apparition?
Well, I've had, I did have one case where I had quite a few scratches on my back, and another case where I had some minor cuts on an arm, like little paper cuts or razor cuts that bled a bit. I have not ever been like pushed or thrown or anything violent like that, but the scratches happened after an investigation. I'd given a lecture down in Virginia at a haunted plantation to a paranormal group, and we were talking about negative entities and how to protect yourself from them. And then after that, we did an investigation at the haunted plantation. And we stayed overnight, not at the plantation, but Joe and I spent the night in Virginia. And when I woke up, I discovered that I had these red scratches all over my back, like someone had taken a garden trowel to me and crisscrossed my back with scratches. I couldn't have possibly done it myself. And yet I hadn't felt anything during the night. They lasted about a day and then went away, and I took it as a indication that whatever was listening to my talk probably didn't like it.
Oh, dear. Oh, I hope they paid you time and a half for that. Let's say hi to Averill in Richmond Hill. Averill, welcome. Good morning. Welcome to The Conspiracy Show.
Hello?
Hi there. You're on.
Hello?
Hi, Averill. Go ahead. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had my phone backwards.
That's all right. It happens.
What I wanted to ask Rosemary about, I've had a couple of strange things over the years, but the one I was going to ask about, I've decided not to. And about 2 years ago, I was sitting by my computer, and I was very worried about a certain thing. Actually, even a bit scared, but extremely worried. And all of a sudden, I smelt a super strong smell of roses.
Roses.
And it was so strong that I started looking around. I thought, this is the middle of winter, and I have no flowers in the house. Where's this smell coming from? And it wasn't coming from anywhere. I don't know. And it stayed for about 10 minutes, and then slowly it drifted off. So I Googled it and thought, I didn't realize how many people have had this happen to them. And what I Googled is something about a protective energy or a protective force.
It's often associated with saints, isn't it, Rosemary?
Saints, it can be associated with saints, also angels, spirit guides, even the dead. If we've feel that we have a close bond with someone on the other side who kind of looks out for us. Floral scents, and especially rose scents, lavender is another one that's common, often indicate this protective, helpful, benevolent spirit presence. So perhaps it manifested as a calming reassurance for you.
Well, it was. Like after I thought, it's funny, instinctively I felt it was something like that. And there's another thing. Many years ago, I used to do I was trying meditation on auras, and I did it with a candle, and I couldn't. It's very hard for me to steal my mind. So anyhow, the candle bent in two.
Oh, Lord.
So I blew out the candle. I got really scared. I blew out the candle. So about 2 months later, I did the same thing, and I heard an explosion in my living room. And it just scared the daylights out of me, and I couldn't find where it came from. And I ran into my son's bedroom, told him to get on the floor. I thought someone shot something through a window. But anyway, as I did that, an orange ball of light flew around the room and then went out the bedroom window. Was that a spirit?
Well, it certainly sounds like a spirit manifestation. Candle meditation is a very good way to connect with the spirit realm. And so maybe your meditation attracted something to the environment. A lot of these are drop-in visitors. It's a one-time manifestation. And
thank goodness.
that may have occurred in this case.
Well, Averill, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great call. Thanks for sharing. Call again sometime.
Bye-bye.
Rosemary, bye-bye. Rosemary, we have a few minutes left. Don't know. Just give us the synopsis of that haunted Masonic apron. Do you remember?
I do. A very interesting case where a grandfather who was a Mason had passed away, and the family had inherited his Masonic apron and put it in a closet, and then poltergeist phenomena broke out in the house. And I suggested that maybe he might be upset because he wasn't buried with his apron. I don't know what the tradition was in his lodge, but in many lodges it's traditional for Masons to be buried with their aprons. And I believe they said some prayers over it, and the problem went away.
I recall you describing this once, because this was a couple here in Toronto that I think reached out to you after hearing you on the show, and they reached into the closet one time where the apron was hanging, and all of a sudden, the inside of the closet, it was like the telephone booth on Doctor Who. They went inside, and the closet was much bigger than it should have been. Am I remembering that correctly?
I believe so. They had a lot of very strange phenomena going on with it. Once they said a prayer to the grandfather. I don't think it was possible to, that he was buried, and so it wasn't possible to, bury the apron with him without, a disinterment. But they did say some prayers, and they said some prayers to the grandfather, and that seemed to put the matter at rest because the phenomena did stop.
Right. How often are you getting, do people reach out to you continuously with problem hauntings?
Yes, I get them all the time. Sometimes they seem to go in spurts, like there's something out in the ethers, that works things up, and a lot of people start experiencing things. And sometimes people watch TV shows, and then that makes them concerned, and they start paying more attention. But yes, it's fairly common that people have issues with objects, and most of them can be resolved in a very satisfactory way.
Can they reach out to you through your website?
Yes, visionaryliving.com.
Rosemary, always a pleasure, always enlightening. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Richard.
All right, be well. We'll talk again next month.
Okay, good night.
Good night, Rosemary Ellen Guiley. All right, that's it for us. My thanks to Ian Robertson, of course, Ryan Elbert taking a much-deserved night off, always doing yeoman's duty. Next week, Nick Redfern and the connection between owls and the paranormal. Until then, don't be afraid. There's nothing concealed that won't be revealed and nothing hidden that won't be made known. What you hear in the dark, speak in the light. What I say in a whisper, proclaim from the housetops. Move over, Aphrodite, I'm coming home. Good night.